Hi, this is Lily with the Help Yourself podcast, and today I have a great friend, ambassador of Heal Scotland, multi-skilled and talented female with me. She is, where do I even start with all the things that you have? You're a yoga teacher, you're a nutritionist, you're an NLP master, you're a firewalking instructor, whatever you call it, and a million other things, a chef. So thanks for coming on the Help Yourself podcast. How are you?
I'm good, yeah. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Good. So tomorrow we start the Healthy Eating for Kids. As you know, from the Heal Scotland perspective, that's one of our big, really, the mums across Scotland. And we also understand the emotive challenges for, cleaning up the diet when nobody else is and there's temptation all around. So I really wanted to talk about, in particular, sugar addiction, because you and I have talked about this lots of times. What is it? And it can be disguised. People can say, well, I don't eat sugar, but it turns out they actually are via foods that are not directly called sugar. So could we start just with that? What is sugar addiction? Let's start there.
That's a big question. In a nutshell, I don't think there's an easy answer to that. I think, as with any addiction, it's, when you're eating something to excess and you have no control over what you're eating. I think that's kind of the baseline of it. But I mean, it's such a complex subject,
Yeah, so it's kind of binging, is it, and cravings?
Well, cravings play a big part. It's not necessarily just binging. I mean, I am a binge eater, have been in the past, but it can come in, different forms. You've got people can say they're eating sugar in moderation, but are they really eating it in moderation? I mean, at the moment I'm not binging, but I am still eating sugar, probably eating more sugar than I should be from a health point of view. And as a nutritional therapist, I know that. But there's a difference between having the knowledge and actually being able to do something about it. I think we've talked about that before.
Absolutely. If it was as simple as educating people, then, and we know that, but, obviously a lot of women for years, since we've had the gym, desperately wanting to be a certain weight, believe, would make them feel a lot better about themselves, but just not managing it. And then there's the managing it, and then there's the sustaining it.
Yeah,
isn't it? And that's, as the body is this ecosystem, it's very challenging because you can't do it for 6 weeks and then stop. Your health will deteriorate again, your weight will go on again, and this is the kind of constant flux that we're in. And I know you and I agree that at least if you're living in a community where everybody's eating well, you just don't have the same level of temptation, do you?
Yeah, and I've been reading a really good book called Crave by, his name's Omar. I can't remember what his surname is, but he's basically saying that recovering from addiction is 5%. Was it 5% what you stop doing and 95% what you start doing? So you can't change a behaviour, you have to outgrow it, and
you have to replace it.
Exactly, yeah, and that's the difficult part. Especially with food, culture, our society. Food's used for it's used for comfort, it's used for celebration, and if you say I'm on a diet, people judge you for being on a diet, or you're healthy eating. It's always, you're on a diet or you're eating unhealthy. It's those two things. Where's the kind of middle ground?
Where we should just be eating the food that nature provides for us, and then we'd all be fine. And it seems very simple, I mean, I said this to Patrick Vickers, why is it so difficult to eat tons of fruit and veg? Why would that be so complicated?
Well, I think when you look at it from an addiction perspective, there's so many different factors that come into it. I mean, one part is genetics. Some people are just more, prone from their genetics to having addictions. And then the other part is the environment, what's going on around you. Stress is one of the key factors in cravings. So if you're living a stressful life, you've got a stressful job, your kids are stressing you out, you're going to crave. So one of the key things for kind of managing addictions is reducing your stress levels. So meditations and mindfulness are big ones. And they actually, the research shows that when you're addicted to something, it actually changes your whole brain, your cells and the proteins it produces. It's all different. So it makes it harder. I don't know, I'm not an expert on the subject, but it changes your prefrontal cortex, and that's where you make your decisions. So you're actually not in control of the decisions you're making when you're having these cravings and eating, the things that we know aren't so good for us.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. It used to be crisps for me. I just craved and wanted. And it does seem like a ridiculous thing to not be able to just go, no, you're not having that. It's really weird. And also for me, big time, it's about out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly.
I'm definitely fine if I'm not seeing rubbish all around.
Yeah.
But I'm just like the next person. If there's a delicious thing to eat there and somebody offers it to you, even although I know, I'm still trying to get my candida, etc., under balance. It's an ongoing thing. And I just know I'm feeding the dis-ease army rather than the ease army.
Yeah. And there's a couple of factors that come into play with that as well. So what was it you just said there? For my brains.
About, I know. I said about the crisps and,
yes, so there's a couple of factors there. When you're craving something, like you say, out of sight, out of mind, I'm exactly the same. If it's not there, I won't eat it. If it's there, I will. And there's a school of thought that some people say that if you deprive someone of something, they just want it more. But when it comes to something like addiction, I actually take, I don't have bread and cheese in the house, because if I do, I'll just eat a lot of it. And when I don't buy it, I don't think about it. So it's and if you're doing complete abstinence, which a lot of people recommend to kind of get off the sugar initially anyway for the first couple of months, it can be really difficult.
Well, exactly. And then it's hidden in so many things as well, isn't it?
Yes.
And so if you're buying jars or anything that's basically bought already made, it will almost certainly have sugar and almost certainly have gluten in it as well.
Yeah. And even things like bread that's made out of flour. So flour is highly processed. It's powder. Anything that goes into our body as a powder is going to hit our bloodstream faster, spike our blood sugars. So when we see something like a slice of bread or a muffin or something, we just see that as a whole food. We don't actually see it as a powder, but it is still a powder.
Yeah, so can you talk to that, about sugar addiction, not just being about like white spoonfuls of sugar? Where else?
Well, you have to, if you think you are addicted to sugar, you need to have a look at what your trigger foods are. This was interesting for me because during lockdown, I was staying with some friends and they were shielding, so we couldn't go out at all. So I wasn't able to get the things that I might normally, have, chocolate, crisps, that sort of thing. So we'd go to Sainsbury's once a month. So I was having things like macaroni cheese, and I was drinking orange juice by the gallon. And my friend actually said to me, she says, "Oh, your sugar habit seems to be a bit more under control." But then when I looked back, I realised I was eating these and drinking to excess. I was getting the hit from the sugar and the orange juice. Yeah. I was getting, cheese and dairy has sugar in it. Anything ending in OSE is a sugar. So it affects me. It might not affect you. It might not, affect the next person. But you have to work out what your trigger foods are. What are the things that you eat to excess or you eat beyond feeling full? Some people even keep eating when they feel sick from eating so much. Just this kind of compulsion to eat. So yeah, you have to work out what your trigger foods are, and that differs for everyone. It could just purely be sugar, but it could be beyond that.
So bread
is a big one. It's interesting because I did Janice's sourdough workshop recently, and I bought all the equipment, made a loaf of sourdough bread and ate the whole lot in one go.
That's the thing about sourdough. I mean, who is going to? I make the crackers that you used to make and the chapatis, etc. I mean, they're so good. And I think sometimes I always tell myself that it's better for you, but I'm like, that is it? How much better for you if your blood group low?
I think if you're able to eat it in moderation, then sourdough is definitely healthier than the some of the crap that they sell in the supermarkets. But again, if you have an issue around food and overeating, bread, even sourdough, might not necessarily be the best thing.
Yeah, because you just want more.
Yeah.
So I suppose it's a bit like alcohol or drugs. So there's all sorts of addiction levels within the addiction, isn't there?
Yes, yeah,
There's the people that feel that they are in control of it, but are they really? There's the people that are functioning and can still enjoy, alcohol. The same with
yeah,
weed or whatever. There's people that go on and have a nice life and work with it, and then there's the people that can't kind of control it. So what would you, because I know that you've done a lot of research on this stuff, so
yeah.
what would your advice be to somebody who's feels that they're
Again, that's a big question. So there's four key things they say that we need to address to kind of overcome addiction, and that's our emotions, our thoughts, our physical well-being, and what was the third one? Spiritual well-being. So they're now realizing that a lot of people that have, especially food addictions, maybe didn't get all their needs met in childhood. So it doesn't necessarily mean you come from an abusive home. It's maybe just, your parents are out working, so you might feel lonely. There's lots of different reasons, but they're saying that there's a need there that we are using the food to fill. So we need to look at how we can meet these needs, without using the food. So things like addressing each of these four areas. Our thoughts, I think, are the key. You probably agree with that. What we think all day long, and when you're addicted to food, you obsess about food all day long. It's all you think about. You think about your next meal, what you're going to eat, when you can go and get that donut you've been thinking about for days. It's just a constant. So I think that's where meditation and mindfulness, and even things like affirmations, replacing the negative thoughts or the compulsive thoughts. And it's not something that's going to be fixed overnight. It's something that we need to work at ongoing.
Yeah, and I mean, as a country, we know that when people in addiction, and we know that a lot of people are in addiction, it has been child abuse and etc. But as you say, it's not always coming from that. It's just how you perceived it to be, and we're trying to eat a feeling away, aren't we?
Yes, yes.
And we kind of, and we succeed temporarily,
but
then just cause ourselves more problems.
Yeah.
So, and I know with when I was working with the Second Chance project, I was told there that for women, when they come off drinking drugs, the secondary addiction is food.
Yeah.
For men, when they come off drinking drugs, the secondary addiction is sex.
Yeah.
So food is there as another means, and I think I remember Brian Clement saying, "Stop thinking of food as a social pastime," and I was like, "Oh, I'm not ready to do that. Yeah, I love eating. I love going out for dinner."
Yeah.
And I think I remember one of my friends saying, the thing is, if you're trying to avoid alcohol or drugs or whatever, gambling or sex, you can put yourself in a place where you can't do it, but you have to eat.
Yeah.
So it's something that we're doing every day, and we've complicated bloody nutrition so much, so people just get stalled into inaction, don't you think?
Totally, yeah. There's just so much information out there, so many different diets, and you get one person saying got to do keto, and then you get another person saying got to go vegan, and there's health elements to them all. But I think the one reason that all diets work is you're cutting out the crap. That's the one
Exactly.
reason. And then as soon as you reach your goal weight or you feel better, you're like, oh, I'm fine now. You start introducing things back in, and then before you know it, you're back where you started. You put all the weight back on and you're craving all these foods again.
I know, and it's that 2-year thing again, isn't it? I remember hearing that a long time ago, that if you can maintain your weight for 2 years, the body will then believe that's the way it's meant to be.
So to get out of, back to your question, how do you kind of get out of sugar addiction? I mean, it's hard because as a society, as you say, we like to eat out. We use food as a celebration, and people don't recognise food. I've said in the past, oh, I'm addicted to Coca-Cola, but I never used to perceive it in the same light you would perceive alcohol or drug addiction, because, it's socially accepted addiction almost, isn't it? Absolutely. And a lot of people just don't see it as an issue or as an addiction. So you actually need that support from people that are feeling the same way you're feeling. If you're in a family where they're all eating sugar, their health's pretty okay, but you're suffering, it's going to be harder for you to actually make these changes when you've not got the support with your family there.
100%.
And they do say, if you look at Alcoholics Anonymous, the people that stick with the meetings for 2 to 3 years are the ones that stay in recovery, long term. So I think having a group that you can be part of is key, having a tribe that understands what you're going through. And a lot of the time it's the people that have come out of it on the other side that know what you're going through and can help you. So they recommend complete abstinence for the first month, detox yourself from the sugar. And that's not an easy thing to do. You've got all your withdrawal symptoms, which cravings. So I think balancing your blood sugar, people say, oh, just balance your blood sugar, that'll cure all your addictions. But I mean, that's just one element of it. And yes, it's key, to helping you when you're coming off the sugar. So certainly look into a diet that helps,
balance your blood sugar.
Eat more of the fats, just remove the sugar. So yeah, they recommend the first month just abstaining completely, taking out all sugar and fruits. And then after that month, assess where you're at. A lot of people just keep going. I'm in a group, there's people on there that have been sugar-free for decades, there's other people that seem to be able to manage it in moderation, but it's a journey. You just need to experiment and find out what works for you.
I think the main point really of what you've just said is that it is an addiction and it is a problem, because we are eating ourselves to death.
We are.
And people are just, I can't give up my wine, or I can't give up my bread, or I can't give up my chocolate, I can't. And that's why I was really promoting intermittent fasting, which is super powerful. Yeah. And it's like, well, you can have a little bit of what you like, but you have to have it within that window. And for some people that works. But I suppose if you're really craving, then that's not going to work either, because you'll just end up cheating out with your eating window. Yeah.
Interestingly, the other thing that I've been experimenting over the last few months with is water fasting. There's a great guy in Hungary, his name's Tad, can't remember, I'll look him up. But he's got a whole website full of information about water fasting, and one of his articles is on how you can use it to cure addiction. So I did.
Did you do one?
I did a 3-day water fast earlier on in the year, but just circumstances at the moment just are making it tricky to kind of do it longer term. I'd quite like to do a week water fasting. I'll maybe come up to Vermillock and do that.
Yeah, I'm on day 5 of mine. Yes.
How are you feeling?
So I feel great. I was doing the FMD the plan was to do the FMD with Rachel, the fasting mimicking diet. And then I just couldn't be bothered looking at weighing everything. I thought I'll just go do water. And I didn't really think I would do it all week, but then I did. I had a little bit to eat last night, and then I'm doing another day today. So
well, you get to a point when you're water fasting, you get to a point where food just, you lose that kind of desire to eat, and it just doesn't become an issue anymore. So you kind of get into this realm where, actually, I can actually live without food. And if you're carrying excess weight, you can live without food for
a long time. One of my friends did 40 days and nights water fast.
And it's a very spiritual thing as well, fasting.
My breath work, it was incredible yesterday morning. It was just amazing. Yeah, and I mean, I've actually not done one for a while, but I was like, why have you not been doing this? This just makes you feel amazing. Yeah,
and it might be, for people listening, they might think, that's crazy. It might be a step too far. And certainly if people are on a lot of medications, they would need to talk to their doctor about that, because it can be dangerous. But this guy, I'll get you his details over so you can share them, but he's got a wealth of information about, he starts you off on a 24-hour water fast if you've never done it before, and builds you up to the bigger ones. So, and he does retreats and things. So he's brilliant. I've been, reading all his stuff. So I'm definitely keen to.
Well, it's free.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is what we like at Heal Scotland. There is no excuse. Yeah. And again, it always comes down to, what are you prepared to do to get your health back and your vitality back? And, some people just are not willing to give up the crap, and that's fine. That's their choice. But my concern now is that with the care system crumbling, people stretched, if you don't look after your body, somebody else is going to have to look after it. And who's that going to be?
Yeah. I think a lot of the time as well, people that go to Weight Watchers or people that are yo-yo dieting, they maybe don't realise that they have an addiction or a food misuse problem. I think just having that awareness that I've maybe got a problem here then helps you to take a step back and say, well, what do I need to do? Going to Weight Watchers is great if it helps you lose weight, but they miss out all the other things, about and you've got the social connection there, people, like-minded people, but you need the spiritual, the mental, this I think is key.
Well, it's in the 12-step program. I mean, I know there is a Sugar Anonymous,
Overeaters Anonymous.
Overeaters Anonymous, because the 12-step program, we should all be following it.
What they say about the 12-step program is there's lots of little things that you do that all build up to create this thing that helps you. Say if you miss one of these things, you could relapse. So it's not about just doing one thing, it's about looking at all the things that...
Well, it's a process you get taken through.
Yes.
And it's very intelligent, and it's worked for millions of people.
Yeah.
So, and again, it's, you know, are you suffering enough to want to make the change? So, and it's just always that interesting factor. I think you have to be, and maybe you're not suffering enough to think I'm going to change, but also my thing is if we all change together, if we all start growing food, looks like we might have something in our district coming up, community gardens.
Brilliant.
We've got the horticulturists coming to the farm. So if we grow tons of that kind of food, we can really change that whole culture, because the more people that are doing it, the easier it becomes for everyone. And as we know, 85% of the food is still bought by the mums, so they're buying the crap. So let's just talk a little bit about kids, and because obviously the big thing is the microbiome, and there's so many kids anxious, depressed. Arthritis in children it's just like, what the hell? And as we know, that's primarily coming from the gut biome. Now, we also know you can be born in with candida now, so it may not even be what the child's been eating and doing, you know, in their few, however many years on the planet. But the microbiome, it's not even you that's doing the craving, it's the biome saying, feed me. And then, of course, mums are tired, parents are tired, everybody's working, doing far too much. And I absolutely include myself in this. You're just like that, eat that. Shut up, you can have it, or whatever. So it's, you know, it's a challenge. I mean, you've got a niece and a nephew. You know what it's like.
Yeah, totally.
And parties are just the biggest amount of crap you could ever imagine. And it's like, that is not a treat. You know, it's not a treat for the microbiome, and you're setting up their health picture for years and decades to come with this food. So if you get any good tips
for children, well, I think again it needs to start with the parents, doesn't it? But again, as you're saying, it's this stressful lives that we live. Our society's not set up for us to be well. It's just not. You know, single people we shouldn't have single mothers. There should be, you know, when we lived back in the tribes, I think it was you that said the average child has 36 caregivers. You know, I mean, what child's not going to grow up healthy with 36 adults bringing them up? And then we're putting that all on quite often just one person who's also working, you know, trying to be healthy themselves. That's just, I don't know what the answer is, to be honest. I think it does have to start with the parents. They need to set the example, you know, getting themselves healthy, eating healthy. I mean, children learn by example. And also, you know, just, I think you've been doing it with your grandkids, you know, when you put food down in front of kids, if they're hungry, they'll eat it. You know, so put down the fruit or the veggie sticks and the dips, you know. And even if you don't have time to make them yourself, you can buy veg strips in the supermarket. You can, you know, buy a tub of hummus. Yeah, there are ways. I mean, I guess that's something Scotland maybe needs to look at, more support.
Yes, because I know with my grandkids now, I'll just bring fruit and bring, you know, and I chop up exactly that, all the peppers and cucumbers, things that I knew they would eat. And when they come in from school, they would just eat it if it was all laid out for them.
Yeah.
And because I think that's another thing from a grand's perspective, is helping the mums instead of judging what they're feeding their kids, is actually actively going in with healthy food when you can to support it. And it's the same as adults. If you can have them eating more protein, more quality proteins and veggies and fats, you know, through nuts and seeds, if they can tolerate nuts, you switch off the satiety. And that's the big thing about the ketogenic diet. I have to say the two diets or ways of eating that I followed where I have not had a craving was Gerson and the keto. It just never really, I mean, I did think about food with Gerson, but the good thing about Gerson was you could eat as much as you wanted. There was no, you didn't have to deprive yourself of food.
Yeah.
And if you were hungry, you just eat a potato. But with keto, you know, first of all, I thought it was really expensive. And then actually, eat so much less. You know, I just had some MCT oil, and then you just put that, and then you just never thought about food. Because I think I, like every other female and a lot of guys now as well, spent a lot of my life thinking about what I was going to eat, and and then not eating it.
Yeah.
And all of that, it seems such a shame. And now, at this age where I don't want to be a skinny freak, I am.
Yeah, I think keto can be quite daunting to some people as well, when you're testing yourself and what have you, but you don't need to go full-blown keto to get, the benefits of balancing your blood sugar and losing those cravings. Just add in, I mean, I don't know, vegans, it's obviously slightly more tricky, but you can get your nuts and your seeds, your avocados, your hemp seeds, things like that that've got the good oils in them. But if you do eat meat, just for me, I don't eat a lot of meat, I eat more fish, so just adding in the tinned mackerel or tinned sardines, and I don't like the fishy fish, the taste, but I do a really good dressing of tahini and tamari soy sauce.
I know.
And it just hides the kind of flavour, and that's you getting more of the good fat in as well with the tahini.
Yes.
So there's ways around it. Just have eggs are a great one as well. Chicken. Just up your protein intake.
Yeah, and your fats.
I
mean, what I do now is I just say to people, go to paleo. If your blood group O, do paleo. If you've got Crohn's or IBS, do GAPS. If you're really struggling, you want to weight off fast, do keto. And if you're a vegan, then cut down the carbs and up the veggies. And Mark Hyman now says 75% of your diet should be fruit and veg. It's alive and it's fresh, and it will do no harm.
Yeah, it's natural.
It's natural, exactly. It's unprocessed. Even gluten-free drives me insane, and all the things that we do. It's just like, just have a little bit of something that's the way it was meant to be.
And don't be scared of eating fat. I think the whole low fat, no fat movement is still, I see it in people, they're still eating low fat yogurt, and you think a lot of low fat products have sugar in them. If you get plain yogurt, it won't have, but you're losing that fat, and that fat is what gives you the satiety. It gets you feeling full. So so if you eat a low fat yogurt, you're more likely to go on and then eat something else, because your body's craving. It's processed. We're taking the fat out of a product that has fat in it. It's processed, and then eating it, thinking it's going to help us lose weight. I mean, it's
the opposite of that.
Backwards. If we eat the fat yogurt, then we're more likely to feel full and not eat something else.
Exactly, but it can actually be challenging to find full fat yogurt.
Yeah,
because it's consumer driven, right? People are still counting calories.
Yeah,
it's crazy. When you think it's all about nutrition, it's all, and the girls in the salon used to say to me, how you eat so much? I was like, yeah, I have the right things. Yeah. I've got a healthy appetite, and I'll have 3 bowls of soup, 4 eggs for breakfast, no problem. Yeah. And then I'll not eat anything else. It's like, it's what you eat, it's not the calories, it's the quality. Yeah. And with Gerson, you can have 3,500 calories a day. And you do not, I mean, you'll drop weight,
Yeah.
It's so interesting. What's your thoughts on a good quality maple syrup? Could that still be a trigger food?
That totally could be a trigger food. Yeah, I've seen me guzzling maple syrup out the jug. I remember
so good.
I remember being at college studying nutrition, and we didn't touch on addiction at all. There was no module on addiction or anything. But one of our lecturers did touch on it one day. And I remember the girl sitting next to me, she says, so do addicts just eat sugar out the bag? And I just laughed, because, I've been in the kitchen floor 2 o'clock in the morning, needing my fix, eating sugar out the bag.
Really?
Yeah, totally. If you can't, because quite a lot of the time I'll just not have my trigger foods in the house, but if you get that urge or that craving, it just needs to be fed.
I remember my friend saying years ago it was tins of condensed milk.
Yeah, I can go in with a spoon, the condensed milk, and cream's another one for me. I can just eat that with a spoon. It's crazy the things our body crave when they're out of balance. But that's an interesting one, talking about the different forms of sugar, like natural sugar. So dried fruit, a lot of people eat dried fruit thinking it's being healthier, and I guess it is healthier than eating your sugar,
Yes.
your chocolate. But at the same time, we don't want to be eating too much of it because it's a condensed sugar, and it can kind of spike your blood sugar the same way that not, refined sugar can. So I think if you're looking to lose weight or balance your blood sugar, you want to be probably taking out the dried fruit and eating the whole fruit if you're wanting to keep fruit in your diet.
Absolutely. I mean, dried fruit it's tasty for a snack, and if kids are active and they're eating lots of other good foods,
Exactly.
it's great. But
or if you're
you
out
have
climbing
to,
up a hill,
yes, if you're
brilliant.
utilising it. Exactly. And so I think the last kind of thing around this, well, I remember looking into, how to change your children's diet. And this was really good advice, I thought, was do a week where you just change the breakfast, because we know that a lot of breakfast cereals are garbage and they spike the blood sugar. They don't give you any satiety or nutrition. And then the kid goes to school like a lunatic. So I think the breakfast for all teachers out there would be a really good place to start. And then you could have, your chopped up fruits and carrots and nuts and raisins and yogurt and banana and peanut butter, all of these things that you can have, or eggs if they'll eat that. There's, that's a much better way to start the day.
I think we need to get past this. Breakfast food either needs to be toast or cereal. Breakfast can be anything.
Yes, exactly. It can be fish.
It's marketing that's promoted breakfast cereals as being, this is what you need to eat at the start of the day. So getting your veggies in and your fruit at the start of the day gets you a good start.
But we're a bread culture, aren't we?
We are, totally.
We're, toast for breakfast, sandwiches for lunch. I mean, it's really no surprise that we're all suffering from chronic inflammation, which is a huge problem for disease. So I thought that was good. Then do a week on the breakfast, then do a week on, and I mean, snacks as well as get out of hand. It's like, how many snacks do you need? And then no wonder they won't eat their dinner. You need to have a space. The body needs to get a rest from continuously putting rubbish into it. So, and then if you are going to have a snack, have it something that's going to serve the body and the brain. Because we're now hearing, so many behaviour problems in the schools, and I don't know why teachers even stay there. It sounds like my idea of hell. But, and it's nutrition can be at the root cause of a lot of that.
It can,
So I think that has to be really addressed and understood, and not in a blame and shame way, just like an education and understanding and supportive way.
Or definitely.
Because I think most people can do a dinner, which even if it's a cold meat and, some pasta or potatoes or whatever, you can create something that, a bit of broccoli or carrots. But it's the lunch and the breakfast and the snacks that really probably, I don't know, I'm just saying that from people I know that are causing the problems. But before we finish, I think the other thing that I always find really fascinating is just the neuroscience of change. None of us want to change. We're all like, I'm quite happy here in my wee comfort zone. And I think when you understand how the brain fires and wires, and again, if you're asking parents to change their habits, then it has to be done. If you just do one thing at a time and replace it with something else, in a way that makes you feel good about yourself, and you're like, yeah, my kids have got really good food today. I've had really good breakfast because, and I know myself, I've been crazy busy moving out of the house and all the things that have been going on. Suddenly I wasn't making my food my priority. So that is still a thing. I totally understand. I do it myself. I didn't have my juicer on for a week. They're like, what is it? How busy are you? Really? It's not even that. It's just the mind, isn't it?
It is, and it's, there's different theories of schools of thought on how long it takes to change a habit. But I think the key thing is to replace a habit with a healthier habit rather than taking away something completely. It's, reprogramming your brain to do something different. And that's back to what we were saying at the start, when you're trying to overcome an addiction or issues around food, is it's 5% is what you stop doing, but it's 95% what you start doing that gets you to your recovery. So we need to be looking at all the, and again, food's just a small part of it. With the kids, it's obviously a bigger, more key part. But I think if we can get the adults, moving towards that 95%, then that'll
that'll bring the kids along. And I love Joanna Blythen's book, why we get so many picky. It's the parents. Just the line goes down. This is what you're having. And when they're hungry enough, they'll eat it. And that's a challenge as well. Or at the very least, making sure that they're eating the good stuff before they get their dessert or their treat, whatever it is. You just have to be you have to hardball them. It's that simple, especially if they've been in really bad habits, and probably sitting down and explaining how the body works. I think they're getting that a little bit at school now as well.
Yeah, I think more so. There is also eating disorders as well, though. When I was a child, I had an eating disorder where I didn't like the texture of food, and had a really, really restricted diet. It wouldn't have mattered what you put in front of me. I just would refuse to eat. It wasn't a psychological thing. I was messing with my parents. It was just, I don't know if my mum said I ate anything up until I was about 18 months old, and then something at 18 months happened where I just stopped eating. So they eventually took me to the doctor. The doctor said I would grow out of it. So I think there are, issues around things like that with kids. They don't like the texture, and it's more than just being fussy. It's psychological. I think then they maybe do need to. I think nowadays the doctors probably are, well, maybe not so now they're stressed after the whole COVID thing, but I think they are a bit more clued up, in the kind of psychology around eating.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt there are. Joni, she ate walkie rice.
What?
Walkie rice, broccoli and rice. That's what she walkie rice dinner. Walkie rice. That's all she would eat. And she still loves that. To try and give her some diversity and different level of food was a challenge. But again, in an Indigenous community, they'd be out foraging themselves.
Exactly, and another
very, very different.
Yeah, and a good thing actually to get kids eating is get them help you prepare the food as well. Get them chopping up, get them tasting as make the food fun. You can make. I've seen I think it's Montessori nurseries. They get all the food, all the bright colours of the vegetables and fruit, and then they make pictures out of them. They're beautiful.
That's a great idea, and help get them growing as well. And sprouting. That's another thing, and then they're much more, because sprouts are a really good snack. Yeah, dead easy to do, cheap as well, because obviously cost is an issue. Yeah, it's much cheaper to buy crap food than it is to buy real food. 2020, it is outrageous. And they used to say 4 to 5 weeks of action would make a habit, but we now realise for some people it might take much longer than that. And what can happen is, remember the NutriBullet craze, where everybody got out their NutriBullet. And that's a good way to sneak veggies into your kid as well, as long as you're not just giving them a whole load of fruit that would have been much better off chewing, because we know the actual process of chewing is really good for their airways, etc., and their jaw and their enzymes. But there definitely is something to be said about juicing a carrot, putting it in the NutriBullet, or a couple of carrots, and then you can put a banana in and a bit of yogurt and some nuts and a bit of beetroot, and make it look nice, but they've actually had a significant amount of veg. So that's another good tip. And then obviously the little balls that Janice and you make, and I make as well, but I make them obviously without sugar. People don't like them. But you can make the little balls yourself, can't you? You
can, and you can do them if you're doing kind of a keto type diet. You can do them with the coconut oil and nuts and seeds and make them all fatty. If you want, you can add in the dates or the dried fruit to give it a bit of sweetness. But again, as we discussed, you just need to be careful if you're doing that, depending on what.
And the other thing Janice did was she would put half of like a milk chocolate, and then put about half of the real McCoy, because was it you that sent me the research on cacao, the phenomenal healing for the arteries and the telomeres. It's incredible. It's a pity I don't like it. But but if I know something's good for me, I'll force it down some way.
It's nice. I like cacao mixed with a tiny bit of maple syrup and a date, and it just gives it that, just takes that edge off it. Like a chocolate milkshake. It's quite a nice one.
Yeah.
You're craving the sweet stuff.
So because if you're going to eat sweet stuff, it might as well have nutrition in it.
Exactly. Yeah. Can you wean yourself off sugar by eating the healthy stuff?
No, I don't think that's a thing. But
I guess it's a step in the, if you're going to do it, do it with the
and certainly for active kids, it'll be fine. You can make really nice things for them, and I'm going to do that this weekend. Make my grandkids some healthy snacks. So that's great. It's lovely to see you.
Yeah,
And
me too.
thanks for all your advice and help. And are you quite happy to take questions from
Yeah,
anybody? If anybody
yeah,
wants to ping you a message, where's the best
definitely.
place to? Is your website up yet?
It's not up yet. No, I'm trying to think. I'm on Instagram. I came off Facebook. I maybe should go back on. It's quite a good place to kind of
For
connect. I
marketing.
know, connecting with people.
What's your Instagram
It's just
address?
Hilary Thain.
Hilary Thain.
Yeah.
Fine. Okay, when's your website going up?
I'm not sure yet. Still working on it. Hopefully soon.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Thank you so much. And I'll see you when you come to the farm soon, and we'll do another walk fast.
Definitely. Great. Nice
Ciao,
to see
ciao.
you. Okay, bye. Bye.